Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, there we go. Now you can see me, right?
Yes.
So, all right, so let's see who we've got here with us today. All right, we've got Joran, right? Where's Joran?
Here.
All right, so you made it back. Good to see you. All right, Rachel.
Here.
Wonderful. Alana. Is Alana there?
She's not here.
Okay, thank you. And Taylor.
Taylor is dropped.
Oh no. Okay. And Nathan.
Nathan is not here.
Okay. Devon.
David.
David, isn't it?
David. It's David.
David.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Wonderful. And Chloe.
Did it one day.
I'm here.
All right. Wonderful. Aiden.
Here.
Okay. And Junior.
Here.
All right. Good to see you, Junior. Rhett.
Here.
Okay. And Price.
Here.
All right. So you found the right room there, Price, right?
Yep. Got some.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Now, Price, I was going to ask you, so are you a student at Shoalo High School?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. All right. Alan.
Here.
Okay. Wonderful. Denon.
Here.
Okay. And Timmy.
Hello.
Hey, Timmy. Matthew. Rivera.
He's not in this class anymore.
Okay. And Skylar.
Here.
Hannah Whipple.
Here.
Brooke. Brooke Williams.
She dropped the class too.
Oh man, we're having attrition. Okay, Joseph.
Here.
And Hannah Zent.
Here.
All right. Okay, so is there anyone whose name I did not call? Okay. All right, so just kind of looking at our numbers here. So we have, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at Mohian. And do we just have one at Hopi?
Yeah.
Okay, and then St. John's, I can only see the very tops of your heads, but we have 4. Might need to adjust the camera. Is that right? Do we have 4 or 3?
We will have 4, but we have 3 today.
Okay, all right, awesome. And then, so White Mountain, we have 1.
Yeah.
So Winslow, we ended up with 3. Is that right?
3.
Okay. And then, go ahead. Is there somebody else coming?
She might come. We're not sure if she's going to be in the class or not.
Okay. All right. And then, let's see. Where's my other school? Is it Hopi? No, I've got Hopi. Okay, let's see. I'm actually covering up. Okay, so Shanto Prep. Is there anybody there? Okay. So it looks like a dark room there. So either we're messed up on the schedule or we ended up not having anybody there. So we'll figure that out one way or the other. Okay. So, okay, there we go. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is we're gonna go over the syllabus a little bit and see if you have any questions. And then we're going to start in on the very first section just so you can kind of get a feel for the teaching. Most of you had me last year, but we do have a few new people. So we don't want to take anything for granted here. All right, let's see where we at. Okay. All right, so let's go to the that. Okay. All right, so now, all right, so this is kind of the, so you can all see me, right? Everybody can see me from wherever you are, and you can see the Moodle up here, and then you can kind of see yourself, you know, fix your hair, make sure you're looking good. So I bet we all see those views, right? We're all good? Okay. All right. So basically, I just kind of want to make sure that you can navigate the Moodle. That's kind of the big idea right away, is to make sure that we don't have any difficulties there. So maybe by tomorrow, go ahead and try to log in and just kind of see what you can see. Really, the thing that I'm going to be going over here is the Math 221 syllabus. And so just make sure that you can access that. And then a lot of the stuff is hidden right now, but as we go through the different sections, then I upload or unhide different things. So I just want to show you that the syllabus, if you don't have it printed out, you can always access it here. You don't need to write any of that stuff down. All right, so that's kind of where we're headed now, is just to kind of go over things. So here, this is Math 221, Calc 1. I'm Jeff Strong, Mr. Strong, Professor Strong, however you want to do it. And this is my my office phone, and then my cell phone. I've got my email and my office and office hours. Now, I know that where you guys are in school, it's not like you're gonna come to my office during my office hours, but that's the best time to reach me, is during those times. If you email me, is the absolute best, and usually you'll have pretty quick response, especially if it's during office hours. Otherwise, it could be, because I kind of travel around, move, teach at different sites. I teach at Holbrook. It could be, it could be 24, 48 hours before I respond, depending on when your email is. Okay? So just kind of keep that in mind. Also, in your email, while I'm thinking about it, make sure that you put in there like Math 221 or Calc 1 or something like that, just to remind me, because especially where a lot of you I had last year, I might, pick the wrong class or something. So anyway, that's very helpful. All right, description. So calculus is an introduction to limits, continuity, differential and integral calculus of single variable functions, and related applications. So that sounds like a lot, but it's an introduction to all those things. So if you haven't heard of any of that, don't worry about it. It's fine. It is assumed that after completion of this course, you will be able to enroll in Math 231, Calc 2. And so we'll do Calc 1 in the fall, Calc 2 in the spring, and then maybe even Calc 3 in the summer, depending on what your needs are and if we get enough people that are interested in that. So from this course, you will gain a basic understanding of calculus and skills for use in many math, science occupations, or as in a background for more advanced math and science courses. So you have to have this to take Calc 2. The textbook is listed there. You need that. You need a graphing calculator, notebook, etc. We will cover the first 6 chapters in Calc 1. Now, the thing that's kind of neat about this book is that it actually covers the material in Calc 1, 2, and 3. So if you had to do Calc 3 over the summer, you could probably borrow the book from your high school and do it that way. Because the book, if you had to buy it, it's like $250 new, but you can get them on Amazon anymore used for like $25. So it's not horrible. And part of that's because we try not to, adopt the very newest textbook all the time. And so anyway. Successful completion of all chapters gets you 4 credit hours for this class. So 4 credit hours. You price that at any university, and you're looking at thousands of dollars is what this would normally cost you, this class. So kudos to you guys for taking this class. Attendance in the course is required. Now, having said that, the way that I do attendance is that when I take the roll, if you're present, you get 2 points. If you come in late or leave early, you get 1 point. If you're absent, you get 0 points. Now, if your absence is a school absence, then you can actually get all of those points back. So what you do is, like, if you're off with the volleyball team or an away game or whatever, or in the student council or something, and you have no control over that, then what you do is you watch the video of that class period and then shoot me an email saying I watched the video for Wednesday, October 30th or whatever, and you'll get the credit for that day. Okay, so anyway. Okay, so the grade breakdown: 25% from the or 30% from the final, 20% from the midterm, quizzes 23, test 24, attendance 3%. So that makes up the total. And then here is the typical grade breakdown. Okay. So again, no pluses and minuses at the college level. Most colleges, universities don't do pluses and minuses. So just don't get in it like an 89. That's the one that makes me cry when a student gets an 89. So, all right. Any questions so far? Okay. All right. So next, the tests and quizzes will be completed on the Moodle. Now, one difference, though, that we're going to do is that I've talked to several of you about, and I've emailed the talent aides this year, is the quizzes are going to be taken during school time. Okay, so we've got to figure that out a little bit, because I actually would like to give a quiz this week on. The first quiz is just going to be on the syllabus, and it's just 5 points, true or false, and you can use the syllabus when you take the quiz. So it's supposed to be an easy 5 points for you, and just to make sure that we have it set up right as far as when we're going to do it. All right, so I talked to several of you, but we haven't worked out a specific plan yet. So let's start with Winslow. You guys have Friday schools, right? It's going on Fridays? Okay. Yeah. So then what we'll do is if your school has, let's see, hopefully you guys have school on Friday?
Yeah.
Yes? And let's see, St. John's, no, right? You don't have school on Friday.
We don't have to come in, but we can if we need to.
Okay, well, let's talk for just a minute. So to take the quizzes on Fridays, the ones that will have school, we might as well use up that time. So Winslow, okay, so Sholo, do you guys have school on Friday?
Yeah, but it's 2 hours early out. So would that still work?
Okay. So what you're saying is during this class time on Friday, you wouldn't be in school?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. So, and you don't really have a talent aid there. There's no aid there for you. So what we're gonna have to do is see if there's like a time in your schedule where you could like go into your school library or something just to take a quiz online.
Okay.
And have the librarian maybe proctor it or whatever. So be thinking about that. Go ahead.
At the high school or here at the NPC?
Well, either way, whichever would be easier for you. I'm willing to work around your schedule, but be thinking about it, and then maybe tomorrow we'll come up with a plan.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So Hopi and Winslow will do it on Friday. All right. So Ms. Townsend, you said that on Wednesdays people don't have English, so do it during that slot. Is that?
Yeah, we can do Wednesday during English because we don't have English, or during prep hours, or during aid hours.
So, well, do different people have different, like some people take English, or does everybody have English?
Well, no.
There are some that don't have English, but like Hannah, you're
Like
an aid.
I don't have that English class.
She
so
can
I
do
don't
it
have
during
free
her
on
8
Wednesday,
hour.
But I have an 8 hour I can do it during.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Don't have an 8 hour, and
We can figure something out.
Okay, so if you could figure it out with that group, and then maybe shoot me an email, and then I'll develop a schedule. Okay.
I will do that.
So, you know, we can figure it out. It's a little more work for me, but you know, I do it. I'll do it. Okay, so St. John's. I know we were talking about different schedules. So so you guys be thinking about too, and then is Miss
King. Good. Crystal?
Yeah, Crystal is if you could do the same, maybe send me a schedule as far as when like for tests and quiz for these guys.
Yeah, no problem. I can send it to you.
Okay, and then we'll kind of just see how it goes, and if there's an issue or a problem with it, then you know we'll adapt. Okay.
Okay.
So, all right. But here's the big issue is that the tests and quizzes that I want proctored by someone at your school. Okay. So if you can work that out at another time, and I'm going to work with you on that. Okay. That's kind of the big idea. All right. Now, just so you know, MPC is actually working through an online proctoring service, so things might be a little different next semester once that goes through committee and so on. We just don't, we don't want a situation where where we have, people collaborating on quizzes and tests and that kind of thing. Okay. Any questions? So we'll talk more about that tomorrow. All right. Now the midterms and the finals, we'll actually use class time. Okay. So we'll use that class time to do the midterms and the finals. So we're not worried about that. All right. So some tips for success in this class. Number one, practice daily. And you'll notice, and as we talk about the student success organizers, I have examples, or I have practice problems, an assignment for each one. But you notice there's no required homework here. There was no homework component. So the problems are just recommended. And if after 3 problems you're like, oh, I know how to do those type, and let's just skip ahead, that's totally up to you. But what I would not recommend is, I had a student a couple years ago. I won't say from where, but this guy was really smart. But when he did his evaluation at the end of the semester, he's like, why did we even need that book? I didn't even open it the entire semester. And so I looked, and what it was is he was actually smart enough to follow along, pay attention in class, and he actually did well enough on the quizzes and the tests because he could remember from what we'd done in class. But then the final and the midterm, he hadn't had enough practice, and it really hurt his grade. And so I think I'm almost positive if he would have done a little work, he could have got an A. So that's just my recommendation, is to have some little practice time. Work on the practice problems with a friend, classmate, or a tutor. So doing the practice problems from the book, that's with someone, collaborating on that, that's not cheating. That's a good idea. Doing the quizzes and tests with someone, that is cheating. That's a bad idea. Okay? When you cannot solve a problem, put it away and come back later. Look at examples in your book or your notes or YouTube or Khan Academy I mentioned later. Okay? Last semester, I had a student that, it's every semester. I have a student, they'll say, okay, Mr. Strong, I'm struggling on the quizzes. What do I do? And so my first thing is, well, are you doing practice problems from the book? Well, no. Are you working with someone? No. Have you tried Khan Academy or YouTube? No. Well, you need to try some of these things before you start getting frustrated or whatever. Try some of the resources that are available. One of them, another one is tutor.com. Let's see, do I have that up here? Okay, so when you go to the website, when you go to the Moodle, you will see that there's a link for tutor.com. That's actually a paid tutorial service, but MPC has actually purchased a subscription for all MPC students. So you guys qualify. So you can go to tutor.com, ask them anything, and they'll try to help you through the problem. So take advantage of that, because you don't want to pay them for nothing. Okay? Any questions on any of that? All right, so, okay, so now some kind of announcement type things here at the end. Okay, so there will be a course improvement survey at the end of class. And like last year, I'll probably figure out a way to give you extra credit for completing that, but plan on doing that. Disability resource. If you have any kind of special needs that I need to know about, don't hesitate to email me and let me know. The guided notes that you have in front of you, and hopefully that they were a help last year if you took me for college algebra and trig, and hopefully they'll be a great resource for you this time. Those were actually a product of a calculus student, that he was a disabled veteran, an older student of mine, and he was really smart, but he had a hard time taking notes, working his hands fast enough. And so I kind of developed these to sort of be a guide for the notes and to help you out. And what happened is I'm like thinking, maybe everyone could benefit, not just him. And so I started doing these for all my classes, and I've had overwhelmingly positive feedback. So I hope that that you'll not only take advantage of the guided notes, the student success organizers, as I call them, but also, like I say, if you have any special needs, don't hesitate, because maybe it'll help everybody, like this guy. All right, and then there's other numbers that you can call or me. There's issues with any violation of the conduct code, academic or otherwise, will be reported to the vice president. The thing that I wanted, I guess, to make clear to you, and I probably said this last year, is that now you are college students. And so that's good and that's bad. I mean, that's good. You can get, discount tickets at Harkins movie theater, because you have your student ID, it'll come. You have a lot. It's nice to say you're a college student, and it's nice to be treated as an adult instead of, a kid. And that's awesome. But the downside is that sometimes the repercussions, if you make mistakes as an adult, is a little different. And I'll give you a serious example. Is that a couple years ago, there was a situation where some student, and some of you have heard this story, I'm sure, but there was a situation where some students were sexually harassing an NPC student. And the thing is that they were high school students as well. It was like a dual enrollment, or anyway, it was a situation where they were getting both high school and college credit. I know that sometimes, because I've taught at the high school, I know sometimes administrators don't take things like cheating or harassment or whatever seriously. In the high school, they'll just say, don't ever do that again. Well, in college, if you participate in those things, there are times when you better go see a lawyer, because for these kids that were sexually harassing this one student, it ended up coming down to hearings and committees and the vice president and lawyers, and I mean, it got ugly real quick. And fortunately, these guys weren't expelled, at least. But anyway, there was other things that led to it. But I just wanted to share with you the idea that as college students, you are expected to be on your best behavior. Everyone should feel safe. Especially in my class, I want everyone to feel safe. And if there's an issue, please let me know. Okay. And if there is an issue of, if there is an issue of cheating or something like that, I've tried to make it so that it's, like I said, have proctors for the quizzes and tests. But if there's an issue, especially if it's something where if someone has been involved in that before, then it's going to be taken to the next level. And so I just want to let you know that it is a serious issue. Okay? Now, I don't like to dwell on that, but it is important that you understand. Does anyone have any questions on that? Okay. Well, I am very excited about teaching you this semester. I'm excited. So many of you decided to take calculus, and I think that it'll be a wise decision on your part. You'll be glad, when you go off to college and your roommates are taking calculus and you've already got it done. You'll be thinking, oh man, I'm so glad I did that. So, anyway, any other questions or comments on the syllabus?
I'm just wondering, I don't know if you have an answer now, but when we do take quizzes and tests, do you have rules for like what we can use, like notes wise or anything?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So on the quizzes and tests, they're all going to be open book, open note.
Okay.
Okay? But that's it. Those are the only resources. So you can't use your best friend who took calc last year. You can't go on other websites. You can't, it's just open book, open note.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Anything else I can clarify? And so what we'll do is once we figure out who your proctor is at Sholo High School, I will send them an email and make sure that they're aware of that
Okay.
that it's okay for you to use book and notes, so that's not an issue. Okay? And calculator, of course, is fine. All right. Well, let's go ahead and start with look at the first chapter. So if you've got your guided notes printed for the first section, go ahead and get those out. Oh, let's see. Okay, so for the talent aids, the classes where the talent aids, some of the talent aids have me send it to them, and then they print it out for all the students. But where you're from, Sholo High School, where we don't really have a talent aid for you, what I will do is I will post those ahead of time to the Moodle. And so then you can click on it and download it or whatever. Okay. Some students will actually, in that situation, some of them will actually just take notes on their computer, and that's fine. So whatever works for you. Okay, so now getting out the first chapter here on functions is just a review. So chapter 1 is all a review of some basically pre-calculus. And so I used to actually skip all of chapter 1 and just get right into the calculus. But over the years, I've seen the need for a quick review. And usually students do really well on this first test. So I figure this will be a good way to start with something that you know. So with the guided notes, and just kind of holding up the first one here, 1.1, you'll see at the top right corner the suggested homework. And so it says homework, but it's not really assigned. But page 11, 1 to 71 odd. Now, oftentimes the assignment is every other odd. So if you see EOO, that means you do 1, skip 3, go to 5, skip 7, do 9, or whatever. And then you'll see a section on the vocabulary. So the vocabulary, it's not something that I would, that I require. It's not something that, you might see a vocabulary word on a quiz or something like that, but I'm not going to, usually these are just words that I use in the lesson. So you need to make sure that you know what they are. All of the vocabulary are in the very section in the book. Okay, so you don't have to really dig and hunt them up. If it's something you don't know, then you can find it right there in the section. Okay, then the way that the guided notes are organized, there's for each concept, the concepts are Roman numerals, and so there's a little section on notes. Then I give an example. Now, how I would suggest it is that on the examples, you just watch me. Okay? Just see how I'm doing it. Don't focus on writing everything down unless I say something really profound. But usually, so I'll give you a little bit of notes. Then I will do an example, and you watch that. and then we'll have a practice problem, and that's where you'll write down on your paper along with any notes and star stuff or whatever you want to comment about it. And that's what you're going to keep with you when you take the quizzes and tests. So you want to show all of the work and everything that you have. The advantage to that is when I took math in college, the thing that drove me crazy is that sometimes I would leave class and I really wouldn't know if I really knew how to do the problems or not. Okay, I would think I would know, but I never had a professor that actually stopped Is there a question in Winslow? You guys seem a little distracted.
No, sorry, we were getting our notes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That's awesome. So I never had a professor that would actually stop long enough and let us work out problems, okay, to make sure that we understand it. So what I'm hoping that you get from these guided notes is that you'll have all of the problem types. You'll have examples, tons of examples that will then help you do the homework, help you to know what to do on quizzes. Okay, so that's kind of the beginning here. Now, obviously, we don't. This class goes till 3:40, so we have less than 15 minutes. So I'm not trying to rush through this first lesson. What I'm trying to do here is just to give you a little taste of it. Okay, so you kind of see how things are organized. Okay, so the first section, functions and their graphs. So we're gonna do some calculator stuff pretty quickly later this week. So make sure that you start bringing a graphing calculator to class. Okay, when we get to like 1.4, you'll be completely lost if you don't have a calculator with you that day. Okay, all right. So here we get a function. So a function f from a set D to a set Y is a rule that assigns a unique single element, f of x is an element of y, to each element, x is an element of D. So that's kind of a more advanced way of defining the function than maybe that you saw in pre-calculus. Okay, but it's a rule that assigns one element to another, and from one set to another. So this part that I've highlighted, that's what you would put in the first blank on your student success organizer. Okay? All right, so the idea is that you have your x value, that's like your input. Now, in functions, we call the input the domain. And so we take that input or the domain, and then the function morphs it, changes it, does something to it, and then we get the output or the range or the y, the f of x value. So the x is the input, the y or f of x is the output. Okay? So this is kind of a visual. So here's the domain, and then the function takes each element here in the domain and maps it to some value in the range. Now, when we're asked to ask questions about the domain, there's really two things that we need to consider. We cannot have, and you might want to write these on the side of your paper there, but you can't have a zero in the denominator, and you can't have a negative underneath the radical. Those symbols this doesn't appear in your book or anything. It's just a way of saying that these are things you have to watch out for. So if I asked for these two functions, what's the domain and what's the range? Well, okay, so y equals x squared, I can square anything. We don't have either of these issues. So the domain is going to be from negative infinity to infinity. And so another way that you could say that is all real numbers. The range, though, is just the positive numbers, because when you square them, you don't get any negatives. All right, now, here, if we have y equals 1 divided by x, the domain would be from negative infinity to 0, and then from 0 to infinity. So another way that we could write that is anything except 0. So this is the fancy R, so all real numbers not equal to 0. Because see, here, whenever you have a fraction, you've got to think about this first one. You can't have a 0 in the denominator. So with the domain, we don't allow you to plug in 0. Okay? And so the range also, there'd be no way you could get an output of 0. Okay? So now let's look at this first practice. Okay? So for y equals the square root of 4 minus x, I want you to write down on your paper the domain and range, what you think that would be. What could you plug in? What would come out? All right, so Jordan, what do you think about the domain for this one? What could you plug in for x?
So any number bigger than 4 cannot go in because then you'd get a negative.
Right. So could you plug in 4?
Yes.
Yes, because you can have the square root of 0. But if you had a number bigger than 4, that would give you a negative underneath the radical. And what kind of number is that? If you have a negative underneath the radical?
Imaginary.
Imaginary. So it turns out in calculus, we're not going to deal with imaginary numbers at all. Okay? Well, you basically, if you became a math major and you were working on your PhD, then you might do calculus on complex numbers. But I probably, anyway, I took the class and it was, scarring, but no, you don't have to worry about it. We don't have to worry about it. So you said from 4 on down. And so we might write that one of these two ways. We could say the interval from negative infinity to 4, and you put a bracket on that to include 4. Or you could say x is less than or equal to 4. So either way would be fine. Okay, what about the range here? Let's ask Rachel. What would the range be? When you plug in numbers, less than or equal to 4, what's the output of the function going to be?
Negative infinity to infinity.
Well, except can a square root ever be negative when you work it out?
No.
No, so your answer is always going to be positive or 0. So then your answer then would be from 0 to infinity. Or you could say y is greater than or equal to 0. So one of these ways. So notice we use x for the domain and y for the range. All right, any questions on that? Okay, so now to tell whether we have a function of another variable, basically if you can do this sometimes in your head, but if you can get y by itself, if you solve it for y, and then for each x you would only get one y, then it's going to be a function. So you can imagine just getting y by itself. So imagine plugging a number for x, and you just get one number for y. So this is going to be a function. Oh, wait. Oh, so this equation is a function. Okay? So what about this one? This practice problem on your paper. What do you think here? Is this, can you get y by itself here? If you got y by itself, what would you get?
Would you get y equals the square root of x plus 1?
Y equals the square root of x plus 1 or 1 plus x. The thing, though, is that remember when you take the square root, you got to have plus or minus in front. Okay? So that's a little tricky. But so now, if you plug in a value for x, because of this plus or minus business, you're going to have two values for y. So that means it's not a function. Okay? So the equation is not a function because for each value for x, you're going to have two values for y. So whenever you have a plus or minus, or whenever like the y is squared at the beginning, usually it's not going to be a function. Okay? All right. So when we talk about the y value or the function value, it's really the y value. So if I, like, here's a function. So if the x value is 1, the f of 1, that just means the y value there. When x is 2, then the f of 2 is the y value there, and so on. Okay? All right, well, that takes us to part 2, so that's a good place to stop. So we'll just kind of pick it up from there tomorrow. So thanks, you guys, and I'm glad you're all here, and we'll see you tomorrow. Any questions real quick? All right, we'll see you tomorrow then.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bet.